Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing very well. Time for a really exciting interview. We've got Red Star Simulations on today, and these guys are making the Mig-17F aircraft for DCS World. Guys, we've got GVAD, hello.
Hey Cap, how are you guys doing?
Okay, thank you. And Vincent.
Hello everyone.
Thank you very much for coming today. So, MiG-17, something that really excites me, this kind of period in history is what I'm all about in terms of aviation anyway. Now, first of all, we should just get established where we stand with this. My understanding of the MiG-17 is that currently it's not an official module. You're making it at the moment, but you intend to get it sanctioned as an official module and released as an official module. Is that right?
That's correct. Basically, when we started making the MiG-17F, from the very first thing we did, we treated this as this is going to be an official module. So all the paperwork was kept for all the legal reasons that we may need. Every receipt, everything we bought for it was kept just in case to make sure we can prove that this was all done in the proper way. So yeah, from the very beginning, this was meant as a official module.
Okay, well, hopefully that's where we're going to be because, I mean, we're lucky in DCS. We're very well served for early Cold War Soviet MiGs. We've got the MiG-15 which is a brilliant ED module. Absolutely love that. We've got then skipped to the MiG-19P, which is still a work in progress, but it's good fun to fly. We've got the MiG-21 which is really well served in the magnitude module. Then we've got MiG-29. And we're going to have a MiG-23, and hopefully we may get a MiG-25. So this is just filling another slot that needs filling, which is really great news. So I'm chuffed you're doing this, guys. Now, we've got questions here I will show on the screen. These are questions that you valued viewers have given to us. Now, that's always good and bad because some questions are excellent, some questions aren't so good, but we aim to serve you, the viewers, at the end of the day. So we're going to punch through these questions. Before we start, anything from you guys?
Yeah, just introduce ourselves. GVAD. I'm an actual pilot. I've been flying since 1995. I've been a part of the simulator world since ACE back in the 1980s. So basically, I've been around this a long time. And once I got into DCS, it was just eye-opening, especially with the flight dynamics. That's what interests me.
What pilot of?
Just a private pilot. Yep. I started flying in 1995. I did fly for the Civil Air Patrol for a few years. They're part of the auxiliary side of the United States Air Force, mostly search and rescue types, but a lot of it is also cadet training, bringing up young kids that might want to join the military, give them a first taste. We actually get them in the airplane. I let them fly for a while. I teach them how to fly, and I did that for several years, and it was once I got a family, it became very hard with kids. But I had to kind of let it go. But I miss it. Maybe I'll get into it once the kids are grown up back again. And I really had fun in it. So
awesome. Anything from Vincent?
Yeah. So a little introduction. I'm from Germany, as you can hear probably. Mm-hmm. I'm an aircraft mechanic. I did an apprenticeship in the German Air Force, so was lucky enough to work on a few military aircraft, helicopters, jet engines. Now I live in Switzerland and I'm doing base maintenance on FA-18s.
Oh, wow.
So, and my personal connection to this project is that one of my relatives, he flew MiG-17s in the East German Air Force. So it's something really personal for me, and I'm also in charge, or I'm helping with some documentation and.
Thank you, Vincent. Yeah, that's really interesting, and I think you've just answered the first question, guys. But I'm going to ask it anyway. So we're going to kick off now with the valued viewers' questions. Why did you choose the MiG-17F?
Okay, so. We started this project. It was me and another guy named Talo. He is actually another 25-year pilot, but he is a fighter pilot. He actually flew for an Air Force down in South America. He flew A4s, he flew Mirage 3s, and he's really into DCS and puts his heart into it. And we got together and we decided to, hey, let's make a module that's really focused on flight dynamics. That as a pilot, that's what we're looking for. Really, when you get in there, you really want it to act and want the airplane to fly like the real thing. And we kind of looked at it, and we're both old school. we like the first through third gen airplanes where you actually have to go in there and fly
Yep.
it. And looking at it, the MiG-17 was available, and it was really kind of a tragedy in a way that MiG-17 wasn't made yet, because MiG-15 is the famous one. I mean, that's the first jet fighter for the F-86s. But the MiG-17 has a 25 or 30-year career of fighting. I mean, you're talking from like Southeast Asia, like the Taiwan Straits, to the Vietnam. You also have the Middle East wars, the 6-Day War, Yom Kippur, the War of Attrition. They all use those MiGs. I mean, and with DCS now coming into Vietnam and Syria maps, that it can really fit into this into DCS very nicely, especially with its history. And basically, that's kind of what we looked at. And the last thing is, we wanted to make something that's simpler, not something that has a lot of radars and all that stuff in it. And this just seems like a perfect choice for us to start with. So it's that's basically the reasons we chose the MiG-17, at least for our first mod.
Roger. I mean, it's an incredibly handsome aircraft. It really, if you do anything like a job that they've done on the MiG-15, I think this is going to be brilliant. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is not going to sell massive, to all of the youngsters like the F-18 and stuff, but it's just, I think it's going to be absolutely amazing, guys.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to question 3, should we call it? If DCS releases this as an official module, how much do you think it will cost? So the cost bracket.
Cost bracket. Well, I look at some of those mods that are $70. And by the way, I bought them all with the exception of 2.
Good man.
I have everything myself, so I'm one of those take my money guys. But and I look at the $70 one, I just cringe. This should be available to anybody that wants it, so it's not going to be something crazy. We're looking probably mid, not even $50 range, something lower than that. Not $15 either, but something that's affordable. We don't want to break. We don't want anybody to break their bank to buy it. Just enjoy it, basically.
Roger, we're good. Okay, guys. Next one, bit of an odd question, but interesting. Will Mac Tuck be modelled? Now, maybe you can give us just a quick 30 seconds on what Mac Tuck is to the valued viewers.
Yeah, Mac Tuck is basically as the airplane starts going towards the Mach speed, gets faster, the pressure point on the wings starts moving back. And what happens as the pressure point moves to the back, the nose starts dipping. So you need more back pressure to keep that nose up. And that's what they call the tuck. It's the nose starts going down. It happens in every airplane as they get closer to the Mach speed. So yes, we will model this. There is one thing I want to mention about the MiG-17 that we saw in some manual that we read, that actually the nose at one point possibly dips up, and we got to research that, make sure we get that correct. But there will definitely be that the dip where the nose goes down.
Roger, and this is particularly dangerous when you're flying low level. So it's low level, kind of transonic, isn't it? And all of a sudden that nose will just head into the ground. Incredibly dangerous.
Yeah, it would be, but unfortunately, I guess you can say the MiG-17 will not reach anything close to Mach speeds under 30,000 feet. So even in the dive, even if you put in the dive, you'll 40,000 feet, you put it down in the straight dive, it'll actually reach Mach 1.023. But then as it reaches 30,000 feet, the density of the air will actually slow it down. So it'll come back under Mach speed. So if this shouldn't happen at let's say 2,000 feet. So.
Roger. Okay. Just a quick question from me, purely out of interest. The rear horizontal stabs, are these all moving, or are they, partially moving?
No, they have the partial movement. They're not the fully moving supersonic ones.
Right. So are we going to run into the kind of compressibility that we'll run into with the MiG-15 in the transonic area, where we start losing control of the aircraft?
Actually, no. The reason being, the reason they even made the MiG-17 was they looked at the MiG-15 and its problems it had with speeds. Like if you're dogfighting a MiG-15, all you really have to do is just go take a nosedive, and if he follows you, he's going to lose control.
Right. Yeah.
So that was a problem, and basically the Russians went back, or Soviets, excuse me, at that time went back and redesigned the wing, and they redesigned the tail to be able to actually handle those close to supersonic speeds. So it will, and from the, we do have some contacts with pilots of MiG-17s. They say no, it's not a problem. So pretty safe to actually take it over Mach 1. So
Roger.
yeah, there's no problems.
Okay, fascinating. Okay, guys, we are on question 5 now. What software do you use to make the flight model when creating an external flight model?
Yeah, that's we are actually using C++. We're going to do it the hard way, and the reason we can do this is because we do have. I actually got a CC programmer, developer, a long-time developer with a PhD in this. So
perfect.
She can take care of this. Now, as we go forward and we make other modules, we'll obviously get the SDK kit from the ED and go that route too. But for this one, we are going to use the C++.
Excellent. Okay. I mean, I guess one of the good things about that is you're going to get lots of control. I mean, I don't know how these things work. I don't get to see this stuff, but I'm guessing you're going to get full control of the variables and stuff like that. Is that accurate to say?
From what I'm hearing, yes. I'm more of a flight dynamics kind of guy that knows the aviation side of it. That's why we got good developers to handle that side. But from what I understand, it's a lot of programmable stuff in C++. So we should be able to get everything, including the Dutch roll. So when you get real slow and you get into that horizontal scissors, and you're barely at that stalling speed. Well, the stability of the 17 is not that good, so it'll actually start waving the tail. But and we got to program that in too, so it should be. But I mean, again, we're focused on flight app. That's the number one thing that we're focused on, and we should be able to get it.
Roger, very good. Okay, navigation. Will this aircraft have ARC and or RSBN for navigation?
So we will have the RK5 like in the MiG-15.
Yep.
There's no RSBN in the MiG-17. You will also have, it's pretty much the same like in the MiG-15. You will also have NDBs and the compass for navigation. So that's your main navigation tools.
Am I right to say that this aircraft was too early for RSBN?
That's difficult to answer. I mean, I wouldn't say that because it was used, it had a long service life and it could have been retrofitted most likely.
Yeah.
But, most nations also switched early to the MiG-21 once it became available. So I guess they didn't have the need to upgrade the MiG-17 with an RSBN.
Roger. I mean, immediate follow-up question for that, Vincent, is why did the 17 have such a service life? I mean, we're in the era of aircraft because aviation was moving so quickly aerodynamically, well, and in all ways, but it's not unusual for an aircraft to have a 5-year service life in the kind of 50s. Why did this aircraft last so long?
Well, it was cheap, first of all, easy to maintain. It was rugged. It had really tough weapons. Turning capability was unmatched at its time. So until the F-16 came along. And like I said, it was cheap in operation, and that was especially like if you look at, for example, African nations, it was a big factor for them to stick with the MiG-17.
Okay, I guess we could apply a lot of that ethos to the MiG-21, which is, what a service life that's had, guys. And I guess a lot of the same things apply. Maybe not turning, but a lot of the same things apply. Interesting. I'm just scrolling down images as we talk. Purely, it's interesting to look at them. I'm seeing a lot of pairings of the A4 Skyhawk and the Mig-17. Now, sorry about my complete noobness, but I am a massive noob. Is there a pairing in history of these two fighting each other?
Maybe Vietnam. I mean, Vietnam is what we hear about is usually MiG-17s against jumping the Phantoms or jumping the 105s, and I'm sure they jumped the A4s too when they could. So
yeah,
I'm sure there is.
Wow, I mean, even the MiG-15, it's an absolute beast. I mean, in DCS at least, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be pretty accurate. It's an absolute beast, even compared to a normal jet. If you get jumped by a MiG-15 in DCS and you're not ready for it, and you're not ready to really go to out accelerate it, I mean, it's amazingly kinematically impressive.
Yeah, like I said, if a 15 jumps, you dive.
Yeah,
dive, get to a supersonic speed, and let them lose control and get out of it. So.
Yeah, exactly. Would the same thing apply to the 17 then? Would the same, or by the sounds of things, no, the 17.
No, the 17. If you're not going to outdive it. But what you can do with a 17 is even with the afterburner, it has 0.63 thrust to weight. So the newer airplanes will usually have higher. So you can start doing the vertical gain one. Don't turn with it. Don't if you're going to turn with a MiG-17, you're going to lose. But if you start doing the vertical gain, and they don't know how to counter you, you can beat them. So.
Roger. I mean, it's the same with the 15. Even if I was in a modern jet, I wouldn't want to turn with the 15. It's a real beast once it gets going. Okay, guys, lovely. Let's move on. Question 7, as I've got it labelled here. Can you please point out what is the difference between the 15 and the 17? We've talked about that, but maybe there's going to be other things. And is the same airframe and new engine a cockpit inside it, or is it historically more deep improved version of the 15? Now, a lot of our guys aren't native English speakers, so we just have to kind of translate as we go, but we're looking answers to that, please.
Okay, so the engine is actually the same. They both use the VK-1F engine, so it is actually the same engine that the 17 has as the 15. The only thing that they did with the 17 that's different is they actually added the afterburner into it. That gives you a little bit extra power, but it's also heavier, so there's some advantage, some disadvantage. If you're not using the afterburner, you're actually doing a lot worse than, not a lot worse, you're doing worse than the MiG-15. But you always have that afterburner advantage. The biggest advantage is two things. One is the aerodynamics, where the 17 does not have the high-speed flaws of the 15, and you can actually go close to supersonic. And another part about 17 is that the Soviets actually had an upgrade to it called the AS version that put R3S missiles on it. It was the option that nations could buy, and we'll talk more about this when we get to weapons. So it will actually have air-to-air missiles. Not many people bought that. Not many nations bought that option because, again, like Vincent said earlier, the MiG-19 became available, MiG-21 became available, so nobody went back to retrofit it, except Cuba, I believe, was the only place that did. But we are going to add the air-to-air missiles, so that will be an advantage that the MiG-17 will also have over the 15 in DCS at least. So.
Roger. Yeah. Cool. Okay, guys. So am I?
Sorry, yeah, just one more thing. We will also have the ASP-4N gun sight, so it will actually have a radar ranging sight that was available later in the MiG-17s. It didn't initially come with it, so it will be very similar to the MiG-19, where it actually tracks it and it'll tell you where the rounds are going. So.
That's interesting. Would that be useful against a maneuvering fighter, or is that really more suited for non-maneuvering targets like bombers?
I know that's dogfighting for bombers.
Really?
You want to keep it straight, I think. Or at least I do. That site is more for dogfighting. because then you can kind of range it, see where it goes,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll see a flaw with it with a MiG-17 and why the MiG-19 hood became bigger. That pickle will probably move out of the glass sight a lot, out of the hoods when you're dogfighting. But yeah, that's we'll have it at least, so that'll be an option.
Okay, very good. And so just to confirm, the engine is a modification of the one from the 15, so that came from the Rolls-Royce Nene, I think, with the centrifugal compressor. That went to the 15, then that went to the 17 with added afterburner and modifications.
Vincent can probably know this better, but I believe there was a VK1A version first, and I think the upgraded version was VK1F, and that was also available in the 15. So I think 15 came with two different engines.
Oh, really?
But
from what my sources say that, or my knowledge is that, like you said before, the Brits gave the Soviets the Nene engine, and the Russians then made the VK1A out of it, which doesn't have the afterburner. And this was used obviously in the MiG-15. And when they were developing the MiG-17, they also wanted to have increased thrust for the engine. So they came up with designing an afterburner, which at the time was, the MiG-17 was the first airplane in the world to feature an afterburner, in fact. And this is the VK1F. The early MiG-17s had the A as well without afterburner, but the F, which we are doing, will feature the afterburner.
Brilliant. Okay, guys. Excellent. Right, let's carry on. So, question 8, as I've got it here. The MiG-17 was able to handle much better than the 15 at near supersonic speeds, as we've talked about. Is this going to be the case with the new module, as well as what visual indications do you receive when approaching the sound barrier? That's interesting.
Yeah, actually, that's a very good question. Somebody noticed that, and I'll let you guys know. Basically, yes, we spoke about it will handle better when it gets supersonic speed. Now, there's two things you're looking for when you're approaching Mach speeds. One thing is you're actually looking at the airspeed indicator, and when it passes the Mach, it actually jumps. So there's a little jump on it, and that gives you a visual cue that you've now gone supersonic, because you're not going to see it and feel any difference or hear it in the cockpit. The second thing to look for is the altimeter. So what happens is as you get close to the supersonic speeds, because the way the pitot tube is made, it's got an intake and then it's got a static port. The pressure wave moves back towards the static port and decreases the pressure, believe it or not. And as it decreases the pressure, the altimeter will note about 800-foot jump in the altitude. So it will go really quick. I mean, you're going level, straight and level, but then the altimeter will just kind of go up by 800 feet. And then as you pass the Mach 1, that pressure point now is behind the static, and the pressure increases, so that it actually drops 1,300 feet. So there's an 800 feet increase and then 1,300 feet decrease before it stabilizes again. So altimeter is a good indication of when you also pass through past the speed of sound.
Roger. And this is evident in obviously in real life, but in other DCS aircraft as well. If you take a F-14, even a relatively modern aircraft like an F-16, up to the sound barrier, you can see the altimeter jump, which is really interesting, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, guys. Very good. Anything else on that before we move on to the next one?
No, I think that's all for that question, I think. Yeah.
Okay, I think we'll cover this, but let's read it anyway. What engine will you be using on the module, and what is the power to weight ratio compared to the 15? Is the burner effective in providing extra thrust in low energy situations like tight turn and climbing steep?
Okay, so yeah, let's go over some numbers. MiG-15 basically has a thrust to weight ratio of 0.54. When you put that same engine on the MiG-17 without the afterburner, you drop to actually 0.5. So you lose something. You're not going to climb as good as the MiG-15. But once the afterburner is engaged, you actually go to 0.63. So almost 10% more, 9% more thrust to weight.
Yeah, so we're really going to notice that in a climb or a turn then, aren't we?
Yes, but there's some things I want to talk about the engine, just because I think people are going to find this interesting, and I want them to be aware of this. This was the first afterburner engine, and Soviets were they were very touchy about it. So basically, the recommendation was do not have it on for more than 3 minutes if you're under, I believe, 20,000 feet. So 3 minutes, bring it back. Or if you're above 20,000 feet, 5 minutes. So, and we're gonna program that into the engine. So what happens is if you have it for more than 5 minutes at above 20,000 feet, the first thing that happens is actually you're going to start losing power. You're not going to have the power that as the engine starts breaking down, you're going to start losing power if you don't decrease it. And eventually, if you keep it on, it'll break the engine. So that's something that kind of want to give everybody a heads up. It's going to be real, so be careful how you use that afterburner. And the second thing is the Russians Soviets, recommended that at full military power you only go for 10 minutes, and then you bring it back. As a matter of fact, for training flights, they didn't want anybody to take it over 10,500 RPMs, I believe, and that was almost like 91% of the engine, basically. So they were very careful with how they used that engine. So
what were the real life reasons for this? Were you overheating some metals, or what was? Do we know what was going on?
Yeah. It was probably quality of the metals, biggest thing, but it was overheating. Basically, the MiG-17 does have the moving nozzles, so as the afterburner engages, the nozzles will automatically open up. There's also a in-cockpit option to open them up if you see the engine overheating for some reason. You can open them up. That should cool it down a little bit. But basically, the indicator in the cockpit that you should probably back off on the afterburner is if it reaches 770 degrees Celsius. That's after that, it starts breaking down. Under that, it's okay. Ideally, you want to have it no higher than 690. 710 acceptable. It will take it up to 770, but after that, it will start breaking down.
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of this is being added into DCS at the moment, engine durability. Usually in annoying circumstances where we aren't told it's added in. Like, for instance, the F-86 Sabre, back in the day, we could, over a year ago or so, we could just keep it pinned flat out mil power for as long as we wanted, the whole mission if we wanted, and we'd have no problems. And a few months ago, as far as I can see, they've changed it so that you get the effects of that heat on the engine. And if you keep it pinned in full power now, then the engine will melt. It's very frustrating when you don't research the thresholds and see.
It's a heads up. Anybody that watches this, you'll know about this. So don't break the engine.
Right. Okay. That's another one we've got to learn. Lovely. Okay. I've just started doing it. I mean, you can't learn all 42 aircraft's thresholds. So what I've just started doing is, at any possible time, and this is the same to apply as in a warbird. I mean, use full power when you've got to use full power. But at any possible moment when you don't need full power, just put it back to half power or something. And that generally speaking seems to start saving the engine. But yeah, you should really know your limits, like you were saying, the proper limits.
Around 10,500 RPM should be okay for the MiG-17 to fly without any issues forever, as long as it got fuel. So.
No jump. Okay. Right. Where are we? Next, question 10. What will be the endurance of the aircraft with afterburner on? Is it true that it reduced the combat range a lot after being introduced? So, of course, as you turn your afterburner on, you get a horrendous fuel consumption. Are we going to see that in this aircraft?
Actually, let me answer. I'll answer that, but my apologies. This is on me, Cap. I didn't answer the second part of the other question.
Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
How's it going to handle at high angles of attack? Basically, if you are at under 300 kilometers per hour and you're at the high angle of attack, you can have that full afterburner in. If you don't lower that nose, you're not going to get any altitude or any airspeed increase. So it's great for if you're doing horizontal scissors to maintain, as long as you're above 250. Actually, as low as 220 you can go if you're good without stalling it. But basically you're going to have to lower the nose and pick up speed. As a matter of fact, the Soviets said, do not. At 300 you can fly this aircraft without any problems. There's plenty of rudder control, but if you you shouldn't go under 450 kilometers per hour unless you really have to, or landing. So that's kind of the cutoff speed that you want to keep it at, because otherwise it does suffer in performance. So.
Roger. Regards to the intake, sorry, go ahead.
Well, okay, no, I was going to go to the endurance, but go ahead.
Well, I was just we were talking about high angles of attack there, and so the follow-up question there is going to be, how does the intake system handle high angles of attack? Are we likely to see engine stalls and sputters, or is it not a problem in the 17 as far as we're aware?
Not that I'm aware. I think Vincent, do we know anything about that? Vincent is our research guy too. Mm-hmm. That's why I said he's so valuable to us. So if we come across anything, we'll do more research on it. But to my knowledge, at least, I'm not aware of that. But
yeah, I can confirm that. I have some good sources. I will ask them, and which is the case for the whole development process. So okay. It's continuous research, and yeah, we will definitely look into that.
Roger, guys. Yeah.
The bigger problem with high angle of attack for the MiG-17 is because it's a T-tail, sort of. At that high angle of attack, as that airflow comes over the wings and gets disturbed, it hits the elevator. And it can cause some performance issues because of the disturbed air on the elevator. So I think that's something we're also looking into, how much disturbance we can take and that kind of stuff. So we're really paying attention close to some of these things that we didn't even think about until a few months ago. Hey, what happens to a T-tail in a high angle attack, right? Mm-hmm. So.
Okay, guys.
Yeah.
Very good. And sorry, I interrupted you. We're talking about the fuel endurance with the afterburner on.
Oh, afterburner on. Yeah, if you could do it without melting it at sea level, you put the afterburner on. 21 minutes. That's all you have. If you keep it at 300 kilometers per hour, no matter what altitude, basically without fuel tanks, it goes anywhere from 1 hour 48 minutes to 1 hour 55 minutes endurance. That's 300. And if you add fuel tanks, it goes to like 2 hours and 40 minutes. But this is very low power settings. I mean, 300 is not that much.
Yeah.
So it'll about, for usual mission with tanks, you're probably going to keep it for an hour. But then again, you got to think about the way they did it in Vietnam was they would have the tanks, they would jump somebody, do their one pass or two passes, and then bug out, because once you start putting in the afterburner and power, without the fuel tanks, it will eat it up pretty quick.
Right. Okay, guys. On to guns. What guns will the module have, and are they the same velocity and round counter as the MiG-15?
Yeah, it's the same exact ones. It's the 23 millimeter cannons and the 137 millimeter, same amount, 80 and 80 for the 23 millimeters, and 40 for the big cannon, the 37 millimeters. So it's
a brilliant cannon. So would you agree with me that they were more designed for taking down bombers, those cannons, or is that wrong?
Yeah. Actually, as a matter of fact, the 17, when they started designing it, the first intent with the improvements on the MiG-15 was to actually be a bomber interceptor. Uh, that's why they needed to improve the speed on it too. But that never turned out to be. They never intercepted the bombers, partly because soon after, faster planes came out. I mean, we went to supersonic planes from MiG-19. Then you got MiG-21 that went like Mach 2 almost. So that it never filled up that role of a interceptor. But that's why the gun was there. They needed it to take out the big bombers, and it does. One hit will take off the wing.
Because what we've always found is, anecdotally at least, that in the Sabre, having those, I think they're M3 half-inch machine guns, brilliant for air-to-air. I mean, not hard-hitting, but, not really accurate is the right word, but just good for air-to-air, good velocity and stuff like that. Whereas these, in the MiG-15, 23s and 37s are horrendous for... Sorry, I didn't mean to say air-to-air. I meant to say for a dogfight, for a fighter. But these heavy cannons, relatively lower velocity, are a nightmare to use in, a deflection shooting with fighters. Great for bombers, because just like you said, even a big bomber, if you land a tennis ball on it, it just knocks the wing off. But... and then, again, unless you're a really good pilot, which I'm not, obviously, but
well, all you need is one hit, basically. I mean, if you look at the way the Americans went with F-16 and F-18 when they put in the Vulcan, which was basically a whole burst of bullets, and if any 15 hits you, you're gone. With a MiG-15 and 17, and even 19, it's different. The Russians went for size rather than quantity. So it works both ways. So
I did an experiment once, just purely out of interest, firing all cannons at the same time on a target. We put them up against some bombers in a scientific situation. We're just holding the cannon where every bullet hits, basically, in a very scientific way. We found that the Sabre and the MiG-15, and by the sounds of things the MiG-17, had exactly the same amount of lead fired or land on the target by the end of the burst. So although the half-inch in the Sabre carries loads more bullets, the amount of lead that actually hits that target is the same in the end, which I found quite interesting. But
you took your time to do that.
We're pretty nerdy here, boys. We're pretty nerdy. You found the right guys.
I fit right in there.
Yeah.
I'm with you guys.
Anyway, let's push on, guys. So that was the cannons. Next, I'm on 12 here. How did you manage to pick up the MiG-17, and did you have enough data and access to actual airframes to work with at the time? So have you actually been poking around real-life MiG-17s?
He can, Vincent can answer the question with the data where we're getting it from, but I got at least 2 or 3 MiG-17s 5 and 10, 15 miles from my house. I go see them every weekend. One is at Plains of Fame, one is down at March Air Force Base, the museum they have, and they actually let me crawl into the exhaust.
Wow! So
we were measuring how far inside the turbine was. The afterburner part was. We needed it. I actually went in there and they opened it up for me, so it was nice. It was so we do have access. At least I do to actual MiG-17s, and I think Vincent. I keep calling him Arno because that's his name over here. But Vincent has a lot of access to data, and Vincent, you can talk about your access. That's
regarding data. We are in contact with a German museum which has several MiG-17s on display. They also have, because they restored one, they have lots of documentation on it. Also, I know a few former East German pilots who flew the MiG-17 in their military service. Also a mechanic, and we are also in contact with 3 American MiG-17 pilots who fly them on air shows. So we've got a few subject matter experts who help us getting this module as real as possible.
And we actually have one of the guys that's going to test it for us in DCS. He's a MiG-17 pilot, so he will test it for us to make sure that we got everything correct. Talo, like I said, he is a fighter pilot, so he kind of knows this stuff. But then again, you gotta get an actual guy that flew it to make sure it's correct. So we have that.
Yeah, it sounds like you're a bit spoiled for choice, which is nice. I mean, that begs the question then. I think I'm right in saying a lot of these 17s were made, weren't they? Have you got any numbers of how many were made? I'm just searching myself. I haven't found it yet.
Oh, I just saw that.
It depends if you just want the Russian numbers or also because they were licensed manufactured in, for example, Poland, China. I don't have a number here on right now.
Okay, I'm just.
It's in the I think high 5 count numbers. It's 10,700 about, including all the
other
variants.
countries. Yeah, that's a lot of planes. That's a lot more than F-22s. It's good to see there's still a lot out there, which is great. Okay, guys, let us push on. What makes a module qualify as an official one in ED's view? Is it having a clickable cockpit, an interaction, or is there a lot more behind it?
Obviously, you need to have the cockpit there. You need to have a cockpit, the switches, the systems correct, like the Mig-15 does. Basically, every switch is workable in that cockpit, and that's what we're going for. But what we're really focusing on, aside from the eye candy stuff, is really the flight dynamics. We got to get that right. When you get in there, just feel like it's the real thing. Again, a cockpit is going to be custom made for us. It's clickable. I believe we have some
just going through it now.
Models.
Yeah.
To show parts of it. Hopefully, it'll be done within next month and a half, and we can start using that and show the inside of the cockpit rather than just the outside that we can't show right now. But we also have other goodies. For example, we have movable nozzles. The wings will flex under high Gs. So that's a big one. That's confirmed. It actually happens because the wing is thinner than on the 15. The 17 does actually flex up. The external tanks will shake when you're under high Gs. That's also true. And the wings will vibrate. Like, for example, when you're taxiing, you'll see them kind of do the little dance. And there'll be some other stuff we're putting in, like just for those that are when you're dogfighting, you're not going to notice anything. But when you're making videos and posting this stuff, this is the kind of stuff that a lot of DCS guys who post stuff want to see.
Yep.
So we'll have a lot of that stuff.
Good. Okay. Yeah, and just general information. If anyone else is out there wondering how you make an official module, there is actually it's all open data in that the things you need to have to make an official paid module are explained from the official ED website. And if I will try and remember to put a proper link to that section in this video description, you need like a certain team, you need this and that, and it explains what you need. Okay, guys, very good. Next question. If your team is big enough and with enough resources to push on with other DCS projects after the MiG-17 is released, or is it depending on the success of this release? So I think he's saying, is it you just focus on the 17, or if the 17 goes well, do you have other ideas?
Well, the way we started this Red-Star Simulations was that we have an idea of wanting to do multiple planes, not just one, because there's some planes that are really missing out of the DCS, and everybody would like to see them. So is it dependent on whether it's successful or not? I think if we get it out and we make it an official model, and chances are pretty good that we will, then the likelihood of us making other ones is very high. If it doesn't work out for whatever reason, we may have to regroup and see what else we can do, whether improve the 17 so we can get it out, or move on to the next another project, because it is taking a lot of time for a lot of us. I've had like 3.5 hours of sleep average for the last month. But it's fun. It's also fun to see your creation go up there and do that. But no, is it dependent? Somewhat. But if for whatever reason it doesn't happen, we'll reassess at that point and see what we can do.
Roger, guys. Yep, absolutely. Okay, let's push on. What is your opinion on how can the jet modules be closer to the real-life jet? Are there ways to improve visuals and feel what needs to be done to get there?
There's two things. I'm coming from the actual aviation side, so when I fly, there's a couple of things I want to I can note. One is something DCS pilots can do. This is I recommend this if you can. I know not everybody can. Get a VR, get a good VR, because I remember putting my first VR when I first flew the F-15. I did a dogfight. That was my first VR experience with a Su-33. And I went to turn, kind of following him down, and I literally stopped the plane and jerked it back because it freaked me out. It was that real of an experience. That was that much of a difference. So VR is a big thing. The other thing is actually something that developers can do, and that is sound. One thing that is lacking in DCS, in any simulator, is the sensations you get when you're flying, the bumps and all that. And the way that you compensate for that stuff is actually sound. It may have to be exaggerated a little bit, may have to shake a little more, but you put in a good sound there, and it will trigger something in your brain and make you feel like you're more a part of the game. Even if you're not actually feeling the G's, the brain can be fooled into make believe that it's a part of you're actually flying. So I've had that experience with the VR and some good sounds. I know the A4 guys, they've put in a lot of extra sounds in there. There's some sounds that are a little bit more than they should be, but they work well with the experience, because you feel that shake, you hear that sound of the shake. It makes you more a part of that experience. So basically, VR is one side and sound is the other side. I think as far as visual, I think we're getting pretty good visuals now too. I mean, it is going to get better, but how much more better can it be? I mean, already the pixelation is better than some of our eyes see anyway. So, but the big part is sound.
Roger, guys. Yeah, absolutely. I've been going on at ED for many years now for exactly this. Now, purely out of interest, I don't know if you guys can see my screen, but if not, I suppose it doesn't really matter. But I went to have my first DCS VR experience yesterday. I'm just looking at a picture of myself now at this company I went to see. It's VR. As well as that, the seat you are in vibrates. As well as that, the seat that you are in moves around. So the aeroplane turns left, your whole seat twists left. And I've never seen anything like it. I mean, just the VR was crazy enough to interact with the cockpit in 3D. I never realised how different it could be to a 2D screen. I always thought, yeah, maybe it makes a bit of difference, maybe. It is unbelievable. And there is no way, unless you go and try it, there is no way of describing the difference.
No.
You just can't. And it's one sad thing we've got here. I mean, this doesn't affect you guys at all, but one sad thing for me is that even if I had a full VR setup and I could experience it, I've got no way of conveying that to my viewers, who have to watch everything on a 2D screen. It's so frustrating. But for the guys who are doing the VR out there, I can completely see why. It really is night and day to just a normal monitor, even if you've got a really good monitor setup. But what you were saying about sound and vibration, especially this had full vibration. So every time the aircraft did something, I was getting the whole seat would shake in tune, not just stupidly like an arcade machine, but properly set up. And it was, I don't know, I've got a video coming up on it, and it's bloody terrifying. I actually thought I was falling out of the aeroplane at one point. It just shows what you do, and how you said it fools the brain. It really does. The seat only moves about 15 degrees off, but it feels like you're tipped upside down and you're about to fall out of the plane. And that goes right into the ethos of what you guys are saying about how you need to use the tools we've got to fool the guy into thinking, oh, I'm really pulling G's and stuff like that.
Well, if you ever get a VR, take a helicopter and take your rotors out on a high building and see yourself fall down. That's a great experience. It'll freak you out.
I do. I see what it's all about, guys. Anyway, yeah, great answer. Top answer. Let's move on to my favourite bit, the bang bang. What air-to-ground and air-to-air munitions will be available?
Okay, so one thing about the MiG-17, it had a long career, and again, it started off with basically the cannons and some rockets and bombs, and it got added on as it went. Basically, the Soviets, mentioned this before, they had the MiG-17F, they converted into the AS version, which had air-to-air missiles. The PF came on later, or before that, actually, excuse me, and had some early radar missiles. They were, I don't know how effective they were, but the 17 AS was actually the MiG-17F with the option to have air-to-air missiles. So, in addition to the two guns, three cannons, the air-to-air missiles are going to be R3S AA missiles, and we've built our own missile for this. It's just because we could, we kind of liked it, and we could have used the one that was over there, but it's why not? We build everything else. So the as far as air to ground, it will have the UB-57-16 rocket pod. This is the stubby little one that's not in DCS right now. We built that one too, and it will actually use the S5 rockets that are available, and we are using those in the for our MiG-17. We'll also be able to use the I believe 100 and 250 kilo bombs, and we'll also later on there was some cluster bombs that were added. That we're going to add those to. What are they? The OTRs. I'm so bad with names. But basically, the cluster bomb that the MiG-21 has was used on the MiG-17. So we'll have those too.
Roger, guys. Back to that missile. Sorry, you said the name of the missile?
It's a R-3S. It's an infrared missile. It's the one that actually the way the Russians got it was interesting because I believe an F-4 shot a missile, a Sidewinder, into a MiG-17, right, and the missile didn't blow up. It got stuck. Yeah. And when they landed, they actually took the missile out and shipped it off the Soviet Union, and that's how they built their R3S missiles.
Well, that's really, and that ties in. We've actually done that exact mission. We've done I think it was the second Taiwan Strait crisis, and they were using, I think they called them the GAR-8s or the Sidewinder Bs. I forget exactly what they were called back then. And exactly right, they were horrendously bad missiles, and like you said, some of the fusing wouldn't work, and one would get stuck in an aeroplane, and amazing, and then reverse engineer it, and here you go, you've got this missile. Just to ask one question, you may not know this, but I've just in the background been looking at old cockpit pictures of MiG-17s, and one of them has a MiG-19-esque looking radar scope. Which led me to think maybe it would have a radar-guided missiles on it. Have you ever seen the pictures of the MiG-17 with the radar scope?
Yeah, that's
PF, right?
Yeah, that's the PF, but the PF didn't carry any air-to-air missiles. It was just guns, and they also, to compensate the increased weight, they removed the 37mm cannon. The PFU, that's the one with it has an RP5 radar like the PF, but you can carry the RS2 radar guided missile. It's the same you can use on the MiG-21 as well, and they were just for bombers, pretty much ineffective against fighters.
Yeah. You can do a search for K5 missile, I believe, and you see how ugly that thing is. It looks like a bomb more than a missile.
Oh, I know what you're going to say. It's that big fat thing, isn't it? But the Grom-looking thing. Yeah, that's a funny old thing, isn't it? That definitely wasn't reverse engineered. That's Russian all the way through. Yeah. Oh, there's missiles. They look so amazing, but they're so terrible. Actually, try and use them in DCS. God, hit something with it. Yeah. There you go. Okay, guys, let's push on. Right. What is your favorite module? Okay, your favorite module that exists in DCS, no mods, actual modules, and why?
Okay, for myself, it's, believe it or not, it's actually the F-16 and F-5. I kind of both of them. And the reason I like them because they are. You hear of F-16 and you think it's this great dogfighter, and it is, but within like a very small range. So you basically you have to be between like 430 and the 470 knots. And in that range, it's unbeatable. I mean, it will literally beat anything in that two circle fight. If you fall under 420, you're dead. If you go over, you can maybe escape. But just because it's that small range, I find that fascinating. Just you have to be so precise. And the F5, I like it because it's very specialized in a way too. I mean, it was used in Top Gun. Think about this. It was used in Top Gun. And why did they use the F5 in Top Gun? Well, it's basically a one circle fighter. And you have to use it that way. If you try to like do a two circle fight with a MiG-19, you'll just lose energy and end up on the deck. But if you do that one circle fight and keep it, it's amazing. So you have to be. They're good at what they do, but they're very specialized. So you have to find a certain way, and that kind of what makes them great for me because it teaches you exact flying, and I'm all about that.
Well, for me personally, because of work, it's the FA-18. It's nice to see what's accurate and what's not.
Right. Yeah, we never get to think about that. We mere mortals, never get to actually see the other side of it.
Yeah, it's great to fly what you work on, but also the MiG-15 because of the family relations. MiG-21 and Mi-8, those are my go-tos basically.
They're proper. I'm not allowed to say it anymore, but what I would call proper old school manly planes, stick and rudder planes.
Yeah, definitely.
Sorry about my treachery on the F-16.
That's all right. That's a good choice. That's a very good choice. I'm a big fan in DCS and in real life. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, guys. Very good. Is the F model coming with the ASP-4N gun sight and we've talked about this, but the ASR3 Radar? And if so, what benefits would the pilot have over the MiG-15 sight?
Yeah, we touched upon it. This is basically the gun ranging radar. So you actually have a pipper that tracks, or not tracks, but it shows you where your rounds are going. So that's a benefit to a pilot, especially with low velocity rounds. If you fly it long enough, you'll figure it out anyway. But this will give, especially new pilots transferring into the airplane, a better idea of where their rounds are going to go. Because if they're used to something that's faster velocity, as you mentioned before, they're going to be surprised. The airplane's going to be way ahead, and the rounds are going to be way behind the airplane. So that's the advantage of having this. And you can always turn it off if you want to just use the static one. So.
Roger. Probably what I'll end up doing. I always get confused with these fancy sites. Okay, guys. When can we expect to have the first view of the module in DCS? I'm guessing he's asking when will it be, available in early access in DCS. Is there a plan, or is it just taking as long as it takes?
Well, I think there's kind of hard to say, just because you can never know what's going to happen. Now, I have to say this about the team: we are moving pretty fast. It's pretty aggressive. I mean, it took us like a month and a half to kind of get to this point, and we already have basically an AI module that we can fly. And we're currently working on the EFM, already starting to get that going. So I still wanted to say end of the year, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think the prediction for me, and don't hold me to this, please, anybody out there, it's just tentative. I'm hoping at least the first quarter of 2022, maybe 12 to 14 months after we started it. and we started about in sometime in March. So what don't hold me to this, and what we're hoping is that after the first experience, then we can bring that down to maybe, instead of 12 to 14 months, bring it down to maybe 9 to 10 months per module, which would be very nice. It takes, it takes a lot of time to get something out there. So just
There's
things up.
yeah, that's the difference between a mod and a module. From what I've had a bit of background sniffing around. You make a mod, you just literally got to make it. You make the 3D model, you make the sounds, you make the flight model, and you put it out there. But for a module, there's all the stuff that has to be done in the background, the licensing and all this research and drawings that the valued viewers never even see. All has to be done. It's a massive pain in the butt, to be honest. I think I'd rather make a mod and just not sell it. But yeah, that's life, isn't it? Yeah.
And I mean, I'm one of those guys that whether it's a mod or module, I don't care, as long as it flies right. I think A4 is a perfect example of a great mod. It's it flies like it's supposed to, and a big part of it is because of Talo. He's an A4 pilot, and we both worked with him on the flight dynamics side, on the A4 side. So all the flight dynamics and how it flies is basically, Talo went in there and said, yeah, this is what it does, this is what it does. And it was so hard for us to have such a great plane out there, and a big part of DCS will take a look at it and say, oh, it's just a mod. And it's not. Guys, go get that thing. Trust me, that thing is good. Okay?
Well, I would say there's mods, and then there's mod pluses. So there's mods out there, which most of them are not very good, as I'm sure you would agree. And then there are the mod pluses, which are essentially modules without the licensing. So you got the A4, which is basically as good as any paid module out there. I'm sure you'd agree. You got the C-130. It's still really early, but you can already tell that's a major thing. You've got the MB339, which is now becoming a paid module. So we could tell as soon as that came out, we knew that was good enough. And forgive me, there is another one, and I've forgotten what it is, but another one in that realm now of quality. T45, I think, yeah. Of really getting up there with everything modeled perfectly, and you just know the amount of time that's gone in there. One thing that bugs me, I wish they would sell it, the A4. I wish they would, and I'm not saying you have to make $80 a time, just sell it for like $15, because we can't use it in groups in multiplayer. To get everyone to install a mod is basically just doesn't happen. It causes problems. If they just sell the thing for $5, we can actually use it then. It frustrates me, but anyway, that's just the way it is.
There's a lot of other stuff. We were part of the testing team for 6 months, and there's a lot of stuff in the background. There's a lot of reasons, and I agree with the guys that did the A4. They keep it the way it is. They have their reasons, and again, I fully support those reasons. I agree with them, but it's just so sad to see something so good not be a part of it.
I know.
It's the way things, and that's actually a big reason why when we came out with the Mig-17, we said, look, if we make something, we're going to make it official, just because we want everybody to enjoy it.
That's it. Otherwise, I can't use it. A lot of people just can't use it. But anyway, okay, push on. Next question is asking, if we get air-to-air missiles, are they going to be beam riders, or are they going to be different? They're going to be IR guided. We're happy with that. Yep. Yeah. Okay. The cockpit view as good. The cockpit view as good as in the 15. Is there a periscope that will be modelled in the jet? So he's saying, is the cockpit as good as the Mig-15, and is there a periscope? Sorry, I don't understand what the periscope is.
A periscope is that little, I believe, that mirror that you look at. Mig-21 has it, and then you see behind you, because now the 17 has the cockpit little bubble canopy, so technically you should be able to turn around and see. Right. But if you look at that canopy, it just kind of fits the head. You can't move your head very much. So that is a very useful thing that they put in there. An update from the Mig-15 that pilots needed to see if somebody's behind them. So yeah, we will have the periscope. And as far as the cockpit, look, I know there's me and Arno and Vincent here talking about this, but our group. But there's some very good guys in our group, and great modelers, and the guy that's doing the texturing is as good as I've seen. So I think as long as we give him a solid cockpit model, this guy will texture it, and I think textures make all the difference.
They do. They really
do. If you look at some of the weapons that we have, some of the missiles, this guy did the texturing for that, for the pylons. I mean, it's just a basic, shape, and he puts all that stuff, makes it look like that. So I think that our cockpit will look really good when this guy gets done with it. The guy modeling it, doing a great job, but also the guy that's going to do the texturing. I have full confidence.
It really is an art form, because one thing I've noticed is that you can have the best 3D model in the world, massive polygon count, everything perfect, but if you don't have it properly well textured, it will look terrible. And you know what I mean? It really is that texturing that makes a difference. Now, how they do it, I don't know. It's modern art as far as I'm aware, to get that kind of thing. But
that's it, man. It's an art form. It's just amazing. That's all I gotta say.
Okay. Right. We've got the next question is, what will the engine spool time be like the MiG-15? And as it more or less is a MiG-15 engine, I'm guessing it's going to be equally as bad.
Yeah, it's a 15-second spool time. Now, it's going to be a 15-second spool time from idle to military power, which is full power. Mm-hmm. Now, once you go into the afterburner is pretty quick, because afterburner, there's no RPM changes. Basically, all it is dump fuel and just light it up. Expand those gases so it gives you more push without increasing the RPM. And that's almost, I don't want to say instant, but it should be there within a second or two. You will get that boost. But unfortunately, getting to military power, same engine, it's going to be a while. Okay, 15 seconds.
Roger, guys, that's okay. We've literally just done a massive video on that, and we're arguing about that at the moment. But let's not hijack your thing with that. Okay. Next, I've already got the answer in front of me. But are you planning to introduce skins for the nations that operated the type historically?
Oh boy, this is we're gonna have a lot of, and I know there's guys that kind of look at it differently. They go that's going to increase the number of how big the size is, but I'm hoping to have a lot of these. I think I sent you a few samples of what we're going to have.
Yep.
Basically, if you look at several African ones, Africa is kind of unfortunately a little bit underrepresented. So we're going to have Nigerian, hoping we have Angola already. We've done that. These are all work in progress. But, we're going to have Algeria, Egypt, at least, and then of course the Syria and Iraq, and then you get Pakistan, Indonesia, of course the Soviets and Czechoslovakians and all that is going to be there. So we're hoping to have a lot, and on top of that, we're kind of looking beyond that. We're going to have different pilot textures, so kind of represent everybody a little bit. You're going to have the green-eyed guy, and then you're going to have a person from Africa.
I see, and that's because this was used so all around the world, really, wasn't it? This aircraft.
Yeah. So what we're planning to do is actually, if let's say we're flying a Nigerian airplane or Angolan airplane with a livery, it's going to be a texture from pilot from Africa. If it's European, then they'll have the green eyes, and if they're from Pakistan and Indonesia, in that area, it'll be that area looking kind of guy. And then you also have the Asians, the East Asians that'll be also represented too. So we kind of wanted everybody encompassed in this. We want everybody to enjoy it, and I mean, for God's sake, we even got Albania in there. So.
Roger. Okay, guys, very good. Next, someone said in the stream, are you planning to show a tail number 3020 as a livery? That doesn't mean anything to you. Does the tail number 3000?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know exactly what he's talking about.
Go on then.
And you're gonna love this one because this is 3020 is a Vietnamese airplane flown by Colonel Toon, and or basically this was the guy that was had apparently a lot of uh, American kills in Vietnam. It, but it's history is a little bit muddled because different pilots flew different planes. So if this plane shot down an airplane, it wasn't the pilot that got the star. It was actually the airplane that got the star. So it could have been flown by different pilots. So nobody really knew every pilot that flew it. But in its final flight, it was May 10th, 1972. Duke Cunningham and Randy Driscoll in the F4.
Yeah.
They tangled with this guy, and they shot him down. It was a bit of a fluke how they shot him down, but they shot him down. And Randy thought he actually killed him, but apparently the guy, I believe, got out. And in 2018 they may have actually met.
Really?
In Vietnam. This could be wrong, but I believe that the only guy that survived a fight with, that was shot down and survived a fight with Randy Cunningham, met him during his visit to Vietnam in 2018. So yeah, 3020 will be there. And now nobody kind of really knows exactly what it looked like. So we actually may have two versions of 3020. We already have one. I believe you can show it. I might have actually sent it to you.
Yeah.
And that's one version, work in progress. But there's, I know exactly what they're talking about. This is it's a historical airplane.
Right. So, isn't that an interesting piece of history? Oh, I really love that. We've had we've even spoken to Randy. We were offered an interview, but obviously there's obviously the negative side as well. So we haven't done anything. But it's just whether you get embroiled on that or not. What an interesting era of history that is, isn't there?
Yeah, a little secret is I gotta confess this. I actually tried to contact that pilot.
Oh really?
I did. I never got anywhere with it. But if I ever go to Vietnam in the near future, definitely look him up. So. Yeah.
Wow, how about that? Okay, well done, guys. That's an interesting thing talked about. Well done, Iron Wolf, for asking that. Okay, guys, let's push on. Will the 17 be followed by missions created towards the module? Will there be missions supplied with the module? I think that's asking, or does it just come with the module? I don't do single player, so I don't know anything about these missions, but.
Yeah, we're obviously going to have some missions. I'm not good at creating them, but I'm sure we can find somebody that can. You definitely need some first training missions and possibly other missions. So, other than training missions, so, yeah, definitely. But no missions are as good as what you make, or I'm not saying you, but as an individual makes. So, yeah, but yeah, we will. Well, that's the short answer to that.
Roger. I'm just reading that part of the module requirement is that you have the training missions and some combat missions, and that's fine. Anyway, let's push on. What's the most challenging aspect of obtaining performance data of such an old jet? Do you struggle to get this performance data?
So far, the most difficult thing is to distinguish between the many modifications. There's not only been the many different versions, but then those countries that use the Mig-17 made some modifications themselves. And to distinguish between those is pretty difficult. For example, you have 4 different air brakes on various MiG-17s, and just trying to get the data on the exact thing you want to incorporate into the module is pretty challenging, but we're getting there. And like I stated before, we have some great sources that help us out with that. And yeah.
Roger, guys. What is there any rough idea why there were so many modifications over the versions, air brakes and stuff like this? Is it different nation requirements or?
Well, it also, from early production models onto later late production modules, they fixed some issues that they encountered during early service, and then they modified, for example, the speed brakes a few times. Also, it depends on the version, which ones, how big they are. That's the biggest difference in them. So, yeah, that's about that.
So yeah, basically, when we make it, we got to make sure we get the correct information for the F version. So that's and sifting through that data is sometimes, because you do get sometimes conflicting information. Is it this or is it that? And yeah.
When was the when in history? When was the F version? When did the F version start? In what year, if there is such a thing? It might be more complex than that.
I think it must be 1953, because it was pushed into service as the Korean War was still on, but it didn't saw service there.
Roger, guys.
So around that time frame. I don't have an exact number right now.
Okay, guys. We've got just a few more left. I hope you've selected a strong and distinctive sounds for the engine and cockpit. For this cockpit, engine, airframe, and noises under heavy Gs and loads, and the afterburner. Some modules are lacking big time in this area, and we cannot enjoy it to the full. And this always gets picked up by the virtual pilots. Absolutely, some of the aircraft in DCS just aren't there with the sounds. Wrong volumes, wrong mix, not enough sounds. Mig-19, C101, just too quiet, too babyish. We've already talked to you guys about this, but anything to add about what we can expect in the MiG-17?
Okay, sounds is there was a person that's going to do the sounds for us, and he's done this before. So, and what he did in that on the other module was just amazing. So, we will have all. It will all because this is we're making this a module to be sold. The sounds have to be unique. We cannot take it from anybody else. So every sound will have to be basically something we record or buy or acquire in a legal manner that we can use. So yeah, this guy will do the sounds, and I have full confidence in him that he will do a great job, especially with, as I said before, sounds are so important in a flight simulator, because they kind of make up for the lack of motion that someone has. They can fool the brain, so when they're in that right proportions, they're great. When they're not, it's like a bad soup or something. You just you can't palate it. So we are gonna the sounds. We're gonna make sure the sounds are top notch in this one. So.
Roger, guys. Good. I look forward to that. How did you guys come across DCS, and do you fly the sim yourself?
Well, for me, I think I said a little bit in the beginning. I started flying back in 1980s. The Ace, like one of the first
amazing
games that came out. Flight Simulator 95. That's when I started flying back in 95. So I've been a part of it forever. Very recently, I got into DCS, and I just love Flight Simulator is more of procedures, training. I used it for especially my instrument training back in the day. It's great for that kind of stuff. And sometimes you fly an airliner, but DCS is something else. It's combat. It's a challenge, and it's great. And I wouldn't be making this with a team if I wasn't a big fan of DCS. I wouldn't bother. But yeah, I've been a part of a flight simulator experience for longer than I have been. Longer than I have not been. So,
Roger.
Yes, same for me. I mean, I think I started the first flight sim I had, I think, was FS 2004 on my dad's laptop or something like that, with keyboard flying. So really early. I think then FSX, obviously, and IL2, 1946, like those old school titles. And I fly DCS since 2015, I think. Yeah, and ever since, love it, enjoy it, and it's great to see how far the sim has come since 2015.
It really has, guys. I go back. I started at the same time as you, Vincent, And I was making videos from the start because, I don't know, I'm just weird. And I go back and every now and then just have a quick look at those videos, and you can't watch them because the graphics on this game are so terrible back then. Although you thought it was great, right? You thought it was amazing. And then you look now and it's like, wow. And because, I'm doing this day in, day out, I don't actually notice the changes. You just don't notice it. They get popped in every now and then on a big patch up, and it's like, and you don't notice until you go and watch 5 years ago, how the big difference is, right? It's like, whoa, when did that happen?
Trust me, buying a 3080 RTX computer with that, it made a big difference from a laptop that I had. I mean, if you look at my video, I do have quite a following on YouTube for my channel, but most of it is Microsoft Flight Simulator stuff. But DCS, I don't have that big of a following, but I do have some videos. If you look at those, they were all made on my laptop, and I just recently got the computer, so hopefully I'll try to make some good ones, smooth ones with
Roger.
Yeah.
Right. I'm going to resist the urge to go into talk about Microsoft Flight Sim because we'll be here all day. So we're just going to carry on, guys.
Okay.
How long could it take to create a sophisticated module like this? And is it time dependent, or you are not aiming for concrete dates and it will be released when it will be released? We've kind of talked about that, but anything you want to add to that?
No, that's it. I mean, initially you kind of get into it, and especially being a part of it before, kind of have an idea, and then you get into it and you start from the beginning, and it's like, it's not going to be as short as we thought. The point is, we want to make something good and get it out, especially for the first one. Hopefully tentative next year, sometime early next year, first quarter.
Roger, guys. It's a funny thing. I'm just scanning through pictures, and I've come across Phantoms versus Mig-17s in Vietnam War, and thinking, I'd really like to get that book now. And I just realised I've got it sitting behind me, so I'm gonna have to go and reread it, guys. Yeah, that's interesting. I've got the final question here. Are air brakes deployed automatically if the jet reaches, I guess what you called overspeed, but near supersonic speeds?
That's one of those conflicting questions that we're getting, because we have a manual that says yes, they deploy it like 0.93, and Arno's got Vincent, excuse me.
Yeah. So,
but go ahead.
Okay. The book or the manual says they deploy obviously manually. You can deploy and retract them, but also you have a safety feature that if the aircraft accelerates to Mach 0.97, they deploy automatically, and they will retract then back at Mach 0.92. On the other hand, one of our American pilots, he says they don't. So this is one of those things where we have to go into do more research, because obviously we have to get it right. And
I mean, push comes to shove, we might even do something like have a manual override of not deploying, because we know what 17 will handle the Mach. It's not an issue. Mach 1.03 or whatever it is. So again, that's just brainstorming, but we do want to get the actual data first if we can.
Roger, guys. Well, that's the end of our official questions. Thank you for the viewers for the questions. They're always much better than I could ever think of dreaming up, so that's great. So, guys, I guess to kind of summarise, I'm really pumped for this. I'm not just saying that because I've got you on the line. This is my bread and butter. This is what, if it was up to me, what I got to fly every day, and it's not, unfortunately, but if it was, this is the kind of thing I would sit in. This MiG-15, 19 when it's finished, 21. I'd happily drive that around all day, but obviously that doesn't pay the bills, as it were. And for me as well, and this is probably only a me problem, other people don't care about this kind of thing, but for me it's really important, as well as having good modules out there, which is very important. It's good, it's a necessity that all the modules are excellent, but as well as that, for me, it's important that the guys behind those modules are nice, good guys, approachable, and that's clearly what you guys are. You approached me, and then as soon as I started talking to you, I could tell that we could just sit in a pub and have a beer, you know, just nice guys, decent guys for me. And that, for me, if I'm going to hand my $80, $50 maybe in the case of you guys over, it's important that you've got nice guys behind it. That's not, unfortunately, not always the case in DCS, and it's just nice to have that. And because of that, I'm extra hopeful, and I'm going to do everything I can to support you and promote you, and really look forward to this module, which is good. We've covered everything I could ever think of asking and beyond. Anything you guys have got to say to the viewers or whatever before we sign off?
Go ahead.
Okay. I just, for those interested, you can check out our Facebook page, Red Star Simulations, where we post bi-weekly updates on our project. So if you want to get the updates as soon as they come, give us a like and follow.
I'll link that.
Yep. And if you fly the MiG-17, if you happen to fly it, turn with it. And if you happen to fly against it, don't turn. Okay. That's the only thing I have.
It's going to embarrass a few F-16 pilots at 250 knots. So yeah.
Yeah. If that F-16 comes under 420, they're dead.
Yeah. Absolutely, guys. Well, it was an absolute pleasure having you here. Like I said, really nice guys, easy to speak to, and I hope to maybe near a completion or something, maybe we'll speak to you again, and I think that would be great. But for the time being, thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
All right, I'll see you later, guys. Ta-ra.